So it's almost like life gives you many signals, and each of these signals are almost like a stepping stone to your next level of greatness. In my mind, forget small town India, forget IIT, forget Wharton, forget three IPOs. If you put all of them together and added 10x more, that's the growth of an entrepreneur. Every hard thing, what I'm trying to say very simply is that every hard thing in your life is there to teach you a lesson, to get to a better version of yourself.
You are a wonderful mother. You are a fantastic wife. You're a great entrepreneur. Above all, it seems that you're a thought leader and you are headed for the moon and beyond. To your mind, what's your legacy to the world? Hello, and welcome to Inception to Infinity, a podcast series that discovers ideas, insights, and inflection points into leadership and life. I'm your host, Anupam Satyasheel, the founder and CEO of Occams Advisory. Today, it's my privilege to welcome Sindhu Srivastava, who is an incredible leader. She is the CEO of We Crush Events and the founder of Girls Who CEO. From her academic career at IIT Madras on to University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School of Business, and beyond that, she has built a phenomenal business. As an entrepreneur who is fearless in her approach and vocal in her philosophy, Sindhu has been incredible in creating experiences for her clients as well as her employees. Sindhu combines her fierce resolve, her determination, and independent thinking to create new ventures, new ways, and new vistas for her businesses and her family. Sindhu, welcome to Inception to Infinity. It's truly an honor. Sindhu, I've known you for a while. You are an amazing presence. I can't get over the fact that when you spoke at the Inc. 5000 conference, there was more clapping and cheering than there was for real life celebrities like Courtney Cox. You have had a heck of a career, but I want to start from even before that. Your parents. Is it true that your mother was actually a national chess champion?
Yes, she was very much so.
And from what I understand, your father was probably the first in the city or something to get a real education, get a degree. Tell us how was being a kid with them, and were they like all knowledge, or they were like kind of playing with you? I'm very curious to understand. It is an interfaith religion, an interfaith marriage that your parents had.
Yes.
How was your childhood?
So, Anubham, I'll tell you this. There's no question my parents love me deeply. No question, right? I mean, if you went to both of my parents and said, would you sacrifice everything you had for the future of this child? Both of them unanimously would say, hell yes, right? And that kind of translated to them investing in my education much more than, we're from Andhra and gold is a very big thing in Andhra. So my mom literally would be like, I don't need gold. I'm not buying any gold this year or for, this decade and couple of decades. And I'm going to invest every single penny we have in this family in my kids' education because that is much more important to me.
But even for the most academically bright,
Yes.
we know that the odds of somebody getting into IIT
Yeah.
for anyone in India is very, very thin.
Yes.
Um, More so, girls typically don't go to IIT.
That's right. Yeah.
But now we know that you are the girls who CEO kind of person. So how did that happen? And what was the feeling of finally getting into IIT? And most important, was there any kind of disciplining that didn't get into a better IIT than Madras?
Okay. So I've always been, in my mind, an average kid. I have average intelligence. I have average work ethic. I have average whatever. And I literally looked at myself as average. And I later came to understand that being average as a human being is actually being supremely precious and gifted, because I believe that every human being is kind of made in the image of God, which means that we kind of have this God consciousness, and therefore every single human being is literally capable of so much, right? So much power, so much potential, so much to do. When I think about my IIT journey, for the longest time, I thought it was a fluke, right? I was studying 16 hours a day.
Diversity quota, admission mistake.
And no, there was no diversity. Like back in my time, there was no reservation, there was nothing, right? Which meant I was one of the 25 women who made it into IIT Madras that year. In a class of over 500 engineers, and when I was writing, we had 2,000 IIT seats. I think it's much higher right now, and my rank was like 1036 or 1038. Every time I tell the story, I'm like, was it a 38? Was it a 36? I don't know. I can't remember. It was whatever between the two, right? So I look at that, and clearly I work very hard. But like me, many kids were working very hard. So if you said, Sindhu, what was it that you had that the rest of the other kids didn't have? I think I now know this as the manifestation mindset. I don't know any other way to put it, but the only thing I lived and breathed for a couple of years was, I'm going to make it into idea. I'm going to make it into idea. Right? Like it was that. And everything I did, like if it wasn't in service of me getting into an IIT, I didn't do it, which meant I missed family weddings during that time, which meant I missed a lot. Like I missed the TV shows of that time. I was studying 16 hours a day. I maybe got half an hour of TV, whatever, another hour to shower, bathe, eat. And I was sleeping 6 hours a day, maybe five sometimes.
You come from a religiously diverse family. Your father is a Hindu, your mother is a Christian. You, you are Telugu, from what we understand, and then you decided to marry a North Indian.
Yes, yeah.
So tell us, like, with all the choices, didn't your parents insist that you should marry another Telugu nice gentleman?
I will tell you this, okay? I mean, it is so funny. Um, okay, so I actually went to Rishi Valley. I don't know if you know Rishi Valley, Jiddu Krishnamurti, but a couple of us from Rishi Valley got into IIT. And one of my friends was Challa, right? So my parents were very keen that I get married to a friend. So they were like, oh, this person, whoever you get married to, needs to be a friend. So the first time I came home and said, I'm dating someone, my dad literally looked at me and said, why did you like Challa? Like, why don't you just go get married to Challa? And Challa is actually a dear friend of mine, a classmate. I mean, I have never looked at Challa as any other, in a way other than, this is a friend. Coming in IIT, you're very blind to the whole community, caste, religion portion of the Indian society. But at the same time, it was also very misogynistic because, again, it was that, oh, you're a girl and you can't like do the standard engineering things, which to some extent was right, right? Like, I mean, a lot of IIT was fitting and filing. And I remember the first time I did fitting workshop, I couldn't move my hands out of this position. I literally I was like a scarecrow for that week. And so there is a physical aspect to being an engineer, but then so much of engineering today is brains and just what you do intellectually. So that, I mean, you can do it in by the droves. So there's no problem with that. But then again, and as a result, like it was almost like, oh, you're a girl, and there was so much judgment on if you were dating, you were considered like whatever, a girl who was acting out of discipline. If you were wearing, a skirt and showing a bit more leg than you were supposed to show, then it was like, oh my God, like what is she doing? So it was almost like being looked at from a microscope. Like everything I wore, the way I walked, who I was walking with, it was all under scrutiny, which is just exhausting to live in that kind of scrutiny, right? So yeah, so I asked my husband out just because I felt like he was very responsible. And in fact, when I first asked my husband out, he was like, Sindhu, you're in your second year, I'm in my fourth year, you have to be more responsible. And I was like, this is complete marriage material. Right? Like, I mean, the hot commodity is like coming and asking you to go out, and the first thing you say is you have to be more responsible, you have to like look out for your future. And that's the kind of guy I wanted. I wanted a cheerleader who just wasn't like, I need to be the best I can be. I wanted him to be a cheerleader for me, right? What I did underestimate is the whole North Indian mindset that kind of came outside of the IIT context. And I will say this, it has been a lot of excruciating adjustment to deal with the patriarchy, to deal with women being second class citizens. Um, just like with everything. I mean, it's just like, to me, it gives me cockroaches on my body right now just to even think about what women have to go through in that society. But that is the reality of it. And in the spirit of telling the whole truth, I have to like play this role where it's a very tight line between how do I not give permission for any disrespect towards me. So, therefore, there are boundaries and very solid boundaries. And the second bit is how do I protect my children from the exposure to patriarchy and yet toe the line of here is family that is loving, that is fantastic in many other ways. And therefore, how do you set your boundaries and not walls in such a way that you allow the love to come in and you do not give permission for the patriarchy.
I love that expression.
Yes.
Boundaries, but not walls.
Yes.
So you were brought up with by parents who loved you to the moon and back, and still you got royally spanked multiple times. You have two young, beautiful girls from they're amazing. You are teaching them to be entrepreneur. How has your messaging to them been in terms of the short skirts and the long legs and whatever else in terms of what they can do, what they can't do, while telling them you love them, obviously, but not hopefully spanking them in Northern California might not be very cool. So
Yeah.
tell us a bit about what your experience has been, and more importantly, what is your message
Yeah.
to parents who are bringing up children and more so girl children?
Yeah.
Even for all the evolution we have had, there is some perceived difference between, a boy staying out till midnight and a girl staying out till midnight. I'm sure you have a lot to say on this topic. I can't wait
I
to hear
do,
your
Anupam.
thoughts.
Thank you so much for the question because I don't think anybody has asked me this question today, till date, and I want to be very explicit about it. Women's sexuality has been one of the tools that the patriarchal society has used to keep women in their place, right? So I talked about, the extreme scrutiny that many IIT girls get. Who are you walking with? What kind of clothes are you wearing? How are you wearing your hair? And like, did you wear makeup today? And if you did, was the makeup to get more attention? Whatever, right? And as a person who wears makeup today, I'm going to use my makeup analogy. I wear makeup because I think it makes me look beautiful. It's an like think about an artist and a painting, right? This artist paints a painting because it's an expression of love, it's an expression of their soul, it's an expression of who they are. And when I use makeup, that's my intention, right? It's like, oh my god, look at my beautiful eyes. And then when I use kajal, like my eyes literally shine, and I love that about it. Or look at the bright red against my dark skin. I love that, right? So when I look at that, and it gives me so much joy on a daily basis, and that's my intention, to please myself first and foremost, whatever the world says is almost irrelevant at that point, right? Like people can be like, oh, look at her trying to show off, and look at her trying to fit into a Western society, blah, blah, and blue, blue. And it might be like, I kind of look at it as a distribution. And there might be part of the distribution where there is a societal expectation and whatever and whatever. But then if the majority of the distribution is pleasing myself, that's where it starts, right? And women's sexuality is something that's similar as well. Like if I need to express my sexuality in a certain way that I'm comfortable with, whether it is wearing clothing that might not be accepted from a society standpoint, whether it is dancing in a nightclub, whether it is whatever it is, whatever however I feel like expressing my sexuality, it is very much a personal choice. And as a fully grown adult, I'm empowered to make that personal choice, right? So, and then it's also, there's a whole education on women's sexuality. Emily Nagoski wrote the book Come As You Are, which is a wonderful, wonderful read for any woman who has been denied discovering her sexuality to now discover it today, right? And as a mother to two little girls, I take the stance of, sweetie, they're like, own your sexuality in a way that represents you, right? So for me, a lot of my work with my girls has been identifying and listening to their inner voice. right? Like today, my girls, they swim. Both of them are very comfortable wearing bikinis as they swim. And and they don't feel like an iota of anything because they're swimming and it's a bloody swimsuit. And they wear it, they're fully empowered to do so. And the intention behind that is it's comfortable to swim. I think I look great in my bikini, and they own it, right? So as a parent bringing up kids, it's almost like look at where your where your desire to be a certain way is coming from. And as long as you can be proud of your intention, full power to you, go ahead and express yourself.
That's lovely, beautiful, and authentic, which is
Yeah.
what I have known you to be all your life.
Yeah.
I think you and I are ideologically aligned on this thing about not liking conformity. I'm a huge fan. I think I'm a contrarian. I think that if we start doing what the world is not doing, we are more likely to succeed than following the template. So, where did this thing of defying conformity comes from? Like you have been a contrarian in your approach all through your life. Like whatever you just said in last 3 minutes underscores that. What's the origin of this philosophy, and how do you wear it apart from in what you already have said?
Anupam, I'll make one small difference. Yes, Anne, right? So I don't look at myself as a contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian. I'm not afraid to be a contrarian when being a contrarian aligns with who I am. So it always starts with what are my values, who am I, and what is my inner voice and my self expression look like. And that is something I'm never willing to give up, right? Because once I give that up, it's almost a soulless existence. It's not to say that I'm a rigid soul. My soul grows, my soul learns, my soul evolves, but whatever I do has to be mine, because otherwise it's almost like why else am I doing it, right? I mean, be it like I think I'm a very good daughter. I take care of my parents. I take care of my parents not because I'm expected to take care of my parents. I take care of my parents because I love my parents dearly, and being there for them through thick and thin is it's one of the defining factors of who I am, right? And I've embraced that about myself. So do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
And if I really have to go back to where did this understanding of who you are come from, I really have to say Rishi Valley. I don't know if you've been exposed to the teachings of Jiddu Krishnamurti,
I have been a
but
huge fan, as a matter of fact.
yes, exactly. So Rishi Valley, even though like I was in RV for Rishi Valley RV for 7 years, and I didn't know any of Jiddu Krishnamurti's philosophies as Jiddu Krishnamurti's philosophies because that's not the way they taught it, right? I wasn't like Jiddu Krishnamurti says this, so we all have to say this. Like that was never the thing. It was always about who are you? What does your soul look like? And how do you honestly, authentically, and sometimes brutally, authentically be you, even though it might be the most uncomfortable, risky thing to do.
So the more I listen to you and the more I've understood you, the more I feel that you have effortlessly blended your scientific background, like being an IITian, working in technology companies, being data driven, with the emotional connection, with feelings, with being human. So it's pretty usual or popular for people to go into IIT and then move to US, do a great MBA like you have done. But most of these people end up being in careers. Like I saw many of them in Wall Street, I see many of them in corporations. You have taken a path of being an entrepreneur. And in a beautiful way, I want to start by asking, I think something on the lines of data has a muse. I think you have this concept. Tell us, I mean, data people think of as boring, unexciting, it is what it is kind of thing. And then data has a muse.
In the majority, like take data. I mean, our conversation, like if we put actually AI on our conversation right now, we're training data for AI to learn and to potentially train in terms of like, did you get the authentic feeling of this interview correctly or whatever, right? Like, so data is everywhere. Like, I mean, if I look outside, I can see a bunch of trees. The leaves on the trees are data, and there is a certain pattern to them, and so on. So I don't think you can be a good analyst without understanding emotions, without understanding the complexities of the real world. Like, data is a representation of the real world. And I would argue that I'm probably one of the top 10 analysts in the world, not because I can code in Python the best, or even though I can code and I can do all of those things, not because of that, because I am super curious and I'm super intellectually honest to understand what data really is representing. Like, that's the craft that I've like literally dedicated my entire career to, whether that data is business data, whether that data is coming from customers, whether that data is coming from women in leadership, whether that data is coming from poverty levels in India. Like, everything tells a story and everything has emotion, because data without context is is useless in my opinion. Right? Like, it's just columns and rows. Like, what is the context behind that data? What is the goal of the analysis? And what are you trying to change in the world because of your work gleaning insights from that data? Like, that's always the context, right? And you mentioned IIT, and actually IITs are pretty good about teaching you that, which is that it's not just, oh, here is first law of thermodynamics and here is how heat transfer works or mass transfer works or whatever. It is, how do you apply this so well and so intelligently that there is a breakthrough of sorts that happens, right? And that's the IIT training. However, like, I'm married to an IITian, my brother's an IITian, I'm an IITian, my best friends are IITians. I'm literally like surrounded by IITians. And I've had the opportunity to look at myself through my own therapy, because I've had to invest in therapy to kind of wake up and smell the coffee a lot. And I've also had the opportunity to look at people that I'm very, very close to and people I'm not so close to. And what I realized, and I'll start with myself, as an IITian, there is so much fear associated with our existence, Anupam. It's such an insecure existence. It's like the whole world has put you on this pedestal. What if you're not that smart? Like, what if I'm not as smart as I'm showing everyone? So you see the imposter syndrome kicking in now, because I'm afraid that I might not be that smart. I have to basically put on a face and pull on a mask to show everyone how super smart I am, and that becomes your goal. So it's almost like these secondary goals that are a little bit meaningless to who you are, based on the fear and insecurity of people putting you up on a pedestal, or people having certain expectations of you. But then here is the conundrum, though. The only way you can reach your fullest potential is to let go of that fear and insecurity, and to push it, or to overcome it in certain way. And that's kind of when you can reach your brilliance. And many people are still kind of stuck between, oh my god, like, how will I make my what do my stock options look like? Will I make my $1 million this year, or will I not? Like, people are still stuck there without saying, what gifts do I have that I can contribute to the world that are truly a calling? And I would have never found my calling, which is now like, women leadership. And it was always there. I've always spoken up, even as a corporate slave, for women empowerment. But I was never really empowered to do anything about it till I became an entrepreneur, until I took my life in my own hands. Because in a corporate setting, you're always wondering, how will this be received? I already am getting feedback that I'm too aggressive, I step on other people's toes, that my vision is too big, and I should just like not speak, because I should give other people a chance to speak. And that's the feedback I'm getting. And now I want to be like women's empowerment. Like, they're gonna, like, whatever, trample me in 2 seconds. So that's the context that's playing in your head all the time. So you cannot be all out. So you almost have to give yourself the platform to get out. So, which is why I say I was a corporate slave, because it was slavery. Like, I was slaving for money, and it's only now that I can be like, no, like, I don't really need to care about anything, because I own my company 100%. I own everything 100%. So I really don't care. So I'm like, okay, like, I mean, I'm in the giving position and not the taking position, which just really empowers me right now.
So you touched upon some key themes. At Outcomes, we have a North Star philosophy
Yeah.
statement which talks about elevating the potential of our clients by solving their most important business problems.
Yeah.
Then you talked about corporate slave, and you put them together and you say, okay, you want to maximize your potential, elevate your potential, and then you try to become an entrepreneur. But that's a scary word for many people. Very scary word.
Yeah.
You made that transition, and then you made the second transition of becoming an acquisitive entrepreneur. So even the
Yeah.
people who started a business and succeeded, I know of companies who are worth $1 billion and they haven't acquired a single company.
Yeah.
Tell us what is going in that wonderful head of yours when or heart, wherever you think from, where these ideas are coming and you're connecting from one to two and two to three and making that march.
Yeah. I'm going to give you the real answer, Anupam. I like the brutally real answer, right?
Yeah.
If you had told me how hard the entrepreneurial life, if I knew the full extent of it as a corporate slave, I would have been too afraid and too much of a wuss to take the leap, right? So a bit of it is just foolhardiness, right? A bit of it is, oh, I'm an IITian, I went to Wharton, I've been, I contributed to 3 companies going public. I must be the hottest shit in town. So let's just like do the leap and then acquire a business, right? And obviously there was a little bit of deeper thinking to that, which is that as a woman of color in Silicon Valley, like I mean, you're being trampled on all the time, so you're trying to like escape from that trample route, right? So it's almost like life gives you many signals, and each of these signals are almost like a stepping stone to your next level of greatness in my mind, or next level of growth. I mean, I don't know if it's, yes, growth is great, so I'm just going to say next level of greatness, right? Or next level of growth. um in my case, so I was like, okay, my next level of growth is really like getting a platform where I can be fully empowered. So I acquire a company, and it's like I almost run this company to the ground, by the way, in the first 3 months. And I got clinical depression during that time. It is one of the hardest things I ever did. I mean, literally, can you imagine a multimillionaire imagining that her head is better off under a bus because the pain of what she's feeling is so painful that she can't go through this anymore, right? Like, I mean, not that I had, very serious suicidal ideations, but like the pain of it, like visceral pain of it was so bad. And I did go see a psychiatrist. I got on meds, and he was like, dude, like, you need meds right now. This is not like, normal levels of thinking at all. So once I got over my depression and I became well, I could see and smell the coffee again. My brain started working, and I was like, no, I'm going to dig out of my hole. I asked for a lot of help, and whatever. My One of the co-founders is actually our CRO right now. All of it, but I assembled the team that would get me out of the hole. In that exercise was one of the biggest growing seasons of my entire life. Forget small town India, forget IIT, forget Wharton, forget 3 IPOs. If you put all of them together and added 10x more, that's the growth of an entrepreneur. So for me, I truly believe that every human being on earth has come to do some growing in our season on the earth, right? Like, we're here to grow, and then the universe is going to give us lessons, and is going to keep giving us those lessons till we hit the growth that we're supposed to hit to kind of reach our next level of being, is kind of what I believe. So I was like, oh my goodness, clinical depression was worth it. Calling my 2 kids to my bed and being like, sweetie, what would you like? Would you like mama to give you each a few $1 million? Or would you like mama to become the best CEO? And hearing the answer from them saying, mama, we don't need your money. We can make our own money. And then they've started their own business and so on. So it's almost like by my unlocking my growth, I've unlocked my kids' growth, because they're like, dude, like, we can't depend on this flaky mama. Like, she's like crying on the floor every single day and asking us what we prefer, whatever. So they were like, we can't depend on her. We're going to depend on ourselves. And they've grown their own wings. And I'm like, yes, like, grow your own wings. Because what else is kind of like the growth opportunity for kids growing in so much privilege, right? I mean, they take exotic international vacations, they go to private school, whatever. What is the difficulty in their life that's going to like build resilience in them? And I was like, they had to see their mother crying on the floor for a few months straight to be like, oh shit, like, life is super hard, like, we need to grow wings of our own. So it's almost like every hard thing, what I'm trying to say very simply is that every hard thing in your life is there to teach you a lesson, to get to a better version of yourself. And in fact, look at your life, Anupam. I mean, if I've asked this question to so many people, I'm like, where did your biggest growth in your life come from? And usually there is a very, very hard experience associated with the biggest growth shift in your life. And that's the thing for everyone. So now I've learned that, oh, when life actually gets really hard, I'm like, what is the growth lesson? What am I growing? Where am I growing? What do I need to grow? And that's, again, as a mother, that's what I've been able to teach my kids, because I know that fear is a very important signal, but that's all that it is. It's an important signal that you have some growing to do. So you can't live in fear. You have to become aware of the fear, recognize it as fear, and say, I need to do something else to get to a different place.
Depression.
Yes.
Women get an unfair share of it, whether it's postpartum or because of societal repression. You overcame it, many
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I'm married to a psychiatrist who actually has a mental wellness company, and she's up in the arms against that mental unwellness, how
Yeah.
to keep people mentally sane. You have taken a whole different path of wellness. You
Yeah.
have tried to spread joy through organizing amazing events,
Yes.
which bring unification, which brings corporate wellness, mental wellness of a different kind. How do you connect those dots? Like this is
Oh, I
an unusual
love
way
this
of connecting it,
question.
but how do you do it?
Remember what you said? You were like, oh, women are given so much pain. You guys have to, whatever, go through your monthly cycle. You guys are bearing children. And then you guys are at the receiving end of patriarchy. And, that's really hard. The thing is that people who train the hardest develop the biggest muscles in my experience, right? So it's almost like it's like polishing a diamond, and it takes a lot of pressure to polish a diamond. So for me, I look at all the hard experiences in my life as, oh my God, life, not as, oh my God, life is so unfair to me. I look at all the hard experiences in my life as, oh my God, like, look at the muscles that I've built through this. And look at the resilience, look at the tenacity, look at the intellect, like whatever it is. So for me, every hard experience that comes my way is almost like overcoming it. I know I'll get to a better place, right? It's that, but it's that commitment to being on that growth journey. I could very well give up and say, oh my God, like this is too tough and I'm going to just sit. There is a place for that, and I can do that for a day or two, but after that, what? I'm not going to do that for years together or months together, right? Like there has to be a push out. So sure, like, I mean, I'll go sleep in my blanket for a day or two, be done. But like after that, like there is this intense push to be like, can I just say this word? Fuck this shit. I'm going to, I literally, I'm going to kick as hard as I can. And if I go out, at least I'll go out kicking my hardest, right? So, and that's what I'm trying to bring to the world. When I look at Girls Who CEO, or when I look at like We Crush Events, which has one man on the team, it's almost like I know every woman, every person, in fact, has so much potential. And it's about owning that, recognizing that, and doing something about it, and telling the hero story and not the victim story. And if you say, and one more thing, like we talk about patriarchy as being horrible to women, actually, patriarchy is also horrible to men. Because if you kind of look at the male suicide rates right now, they largely trump women's and so on. Because the expectation on men is so high that, like, it's insane. It's unreasonable, and many people are like capping out because they're like, what the hell is this? So it's almost like it affects all of us. The way we tell the stories are a little bit different. But if I had to like go back to the first principles theory behind all of this, it's almost like everybody should be empowered to be themselves. Everybody needs to overcome fear and insecurity, and everybody needs to look at hard things and be like, what is my growth journey through this thing?
So you talked about all these wonderful things of how you wrestled down the monster of depression to the ground and you built this fantastic thing. Tell us a bit more about your spreading joy through events and in a world where people have got comfortable with remote work, which is still a bit of an oxymoron, if you ask me. Um, I believe there's an energy, unification, and escalation when people come together and do things not very, very visible when people participate in events. when you bring everybody in the office together, even if the people don't come to office all the time, everybody from remote locations, and they join hands in an event and they celebrate whatever they're celebrating through the wonderful things that you do. Tell us, how is that helping people feel more normal? How is it contributing to mental wellness? And how is that not approach mainstream when, to me, it sounds logical that that's how people should think about wellness versus all the corporate programs we see these days about walk more steps and go for health check. I mean, heck, to use your language, F that S, that it'll be people will be healthier if they actually were bonding better with each other.
I went to Wharton, and
Yes.
Wharton is a finance school. And first and foremost, I'm a greedy capitalist pig, right? For me, it's all about the revenue. It's all about show me the money. And it's all about how, because, and not because, oh, yeah, I'm like, yes, I'm greedy. But at the same time, I believe money is just such a force for good that every company should be, having huge revenue growth, not just huge revenue growth, then net operating income and no pat after tax, because again, tax, the whole, you're in tax, so I'm preaching to the choir here. But then no pat is really what they should be looking at, and they should be maximizing the hell out of it. Okay, like, I'll start there. Now assume that we're all on the same page, we're all greedy capitalist pigs looking at our no pat really really closely and be like, how do I make that no pat super super efficient? Now I want you to look at your P&L, and I want you to look at one of the biggest expenses you have, right? If you're a tech company, your COGS are very small. If you're a manufacturing company, your COGS are quite high. But then one of your biggest items on your P&L is your labor cost, right? How much you pay your people. I'm willing to bet that is in the top 5 costs of whatever your P&L is.
For every company, it's
Correct.
almost 40-50%. Yeah.
Exactly. Now I want you to take a look at that 40-50% of your cost that is going to labor. And then I want you to think about the mindset that all of your labor is carrying around, right? And I want you to imagine 2 scenarios. I want you to imagine a graph with anxiety and motivation, inspiration, calm on the 2 axes, negative feelings, positive feelings. And I want you to map out what the emotion of this very precious resource that you're spending 40 to 50% of your cost on, where is their mindset? And if you're like, their mindset is in the anxiety bucket much more than it is in the motivated, inspired, gung-ho, happy mindset, I want to ask you the question, are they doing the best work of their lives? Okay, and usually the answer is no, because we know as a society we're a very anxious society. So then I want to ask you the question, what are you doing to infuse efficiency into your workforce? How do you think they're going to get to the joyful, inspired, motivated end of the curve so that they can do the best work of their lives, so that you as a company can make more money? That's the paradigm we're shifting in. So then it becomes almost a no-brainer that your employees deserve to be happy, joyful, motivated, inspired. And how are you going to now, inspire employees to hit their goals? How are you going to tell them what the charter of the company is all about, like what the roadmap is all about? And how are you going to rile them up so much that they go to sleep thinking about how to hit your goals? Are you going to bring them together, or are you going to like disperse them remotely and assume that they know their jobs and they'll do it like, in their sleep? Okay. Actually, I want to add on to that, right? So that's the employee piece. So that's the business case for getting your employees together in a very meaningful fashion on a regular basis, because people are human beings. They need reinforcement, they need motivation, inspiration. So you have to be getting them together on a regular basis to essentially show them what the company is all about. Not tell them, but show them, make them experience what the company is all about. And if the company is literally about, we're going to reach for the mountain, show them the mountain. Like, go take them to a mountain retreat, get all the company together and be like, this is the mountain we're climbing, right? So that's how you show an entire base of employees to really go for the moon. Now I want to talk about customers. Your revenue is coming from customers, right? What are customers? They're people at the end of the day, right? The human beings at the end of the day giving you their hard-earned money because you have a service or a product that they care about, right? And ask any salesperson, go to the best salespeople on your team and ask them, why do people buy from us? Do they buy because we have the best product? Do they buy because we have the best service? Or do they buy us because they like us? Any seasoned salesperson will tell you, My customers buy from me because they like me. It's given, right? It's not like if you were a shit person with the best product and the best service, nobody would come buy from you, right? So then the question then becomes, if you have to make your customers like you, then it follows that you need to make your customers have a relationship with you. You need to make your customers feel a connection towards you. How are you going to build this connection with your customers at scale? The answer is
Events.
exactly. How much of your time are you investing in bringing your customers together, helping them feel your product mode roadmap, helping like, solve their frustrations of features that don't work very well, helping them solve frustrations of, service products that are not really speaking to them, and like, tackle it head on. The thing is that all of us have become so accustomed to doing half-assed events, including, by the way, Salesforce Dreamforce, which is supposed to be one of the flagship events, like such a half-assed event, I tell you. And I'm like, no wonder people think it's a waste of time. And that's why you need to come to WeCrush events, because we're experts at connecting people. And we'll tell you like where the bullshit is happening and where the good stuff is happening. And we can actually write measurement plans. We can show you the analytics behind it, and we can really like help you drive events that increase the revenue of your business, and most importantly, increase your NOPAT, net operating profit after tax.
You give such great answers. I might not be able to go through all that other in my mind because I have still many questions I'm trying to get answers from you. But
Yes.
here is one that is pretty close to my heart. We celebrate capitalism in America. We say it's the land of the free. We have this amazing thing called employment at will.
Yeah.
I recently wrote in Forbes that employment as will adds to the mental stress of most people. They
Hmm.
don't know if they'll have a job next week or not.
Yeah.
We are now moving from business to a policy matter to a social, cultural, business norm. What are your views on the way it's done in this country versus places like Germany or Netherlands or most of Europe, where letting somebody go is a bit of an event? You talked about soul, you talked about soul celebration and people connecting at that level. But employment at will, just like remote work, seems like a soulless way of living life. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know, Anupam. I don't know if I fully agree that it's a soulless way, and I'll tell you why, right? I mean, every job I've held is employment at will. Every single job I've ever held. And for me, it's personally speaking, for me, it's never, and I'll speak
Okay,
personally, and I'll speak
can
for
I
my,
modify my question?
yes.
Maybe it's not the employment at will as a concept, but the
Yeah.
way it's used by corporate America in terms of hire and fire.
Oh, yes. Thank you for the modified question, because if it was just employment at will, I'd be like, as a human being, I'm incentivized to make myself so valuable to my company that if I'm not valuable, then obviously, I mean, then I don't need to be a resource because I'm not adding value, right? So with that, I mean, I don't have very much problem of that adding value bit. However, your second question is a little bit more nuanced, because the thing is that in mainstream corporate America, I think we've all seen this. We have leaders who are a little bit like, can I say, narcissistic and egotistic, so therefore they're in the business of building empires. And it's almost like it becomes an emperor with no clothes sort of a story, right? It's like people are confused, like they're like, what's my role? What am I contributing to? What's my responsibility? And right now, I mean, some of the companies that I worked at, they were like, we need to have a roles and responsibilities discussion after, like, they've been in their role for a couple of years. And I'm like, why are you having a roles and responsibilities discussion 2 years into your role, which to me signals that the company hasn't thought through its hiring plan in the first place, right? So if you're saying, hey, aren't we as corporate America, really really accountable for our bad decisions in hiring, planning? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll own that with my own company right now, which is that, like, like all business owners, it's the trade-off between growth and profits, right? And but like, because obviously, like, we have enough money, I'm just like, every single penny I make, I'm just back into the company's growth. But sometimes the growth does not work, right? Because I look at, like, okay, what are all the places we've invested in, and you see that the investments are not paying off. And who's accountable for it? Me, solely me. As the CEO of the company, I made a bet, I took a risk, it did not work out. And sometimes there are going to be human beings at the receiving end of my decisions. And that is absolutely a sad thing. I should be accountable for it. And it's on my conscience. Absolutely, it's on my conscience, and as it should be. And hopefully the thing is then, how can you, if you're having an impact on someone's life, how do you do it with as much empathy, as much compassion, and as much grace, while owning your mistake? And so it's a both and story, which is that as leaders and as human beings, we all make mistakes, and there is a way to say, I've made a mistake, I'm going to do better next time. And in my position, because I'm the 100% owner, it's almost like you can't fire me from the company. I'm sorry, you're stuck with me. But at the same time, like, it's not lost on me that absolutely I need to take accountability and ownership and responsibility for my mistakes.
Well, that's nice way to say that 2 weeks notice might not be enough compensation for people who are let go, but let's keep
Yeah.
moving. I have two other questions, and we need to stick to time. So I will ask the first one. Girls Who Code was heard. Girls Who CEO is the new flavor of it, of a much higher elevation of potential. How did it come by? What is it doing? And how do girls participate in that mission?
Thank you so much for this question. And thank you for bringing Girls Who Code into the conversation as well. So here's the deal, Anupam. If you look at Girls Who Code, the premise between that is with girls doing, right? Girls have to code to become valuable, right? Whereas the CEO job is a being job. You have to be a CEO. It doesn't start with me doing 10 different things. It starts with me understanding my inner voice, my strengths, my leadership potential, my leadership traits, and my growth opportunities and my potential. So for me, Girls Who CEO, and in fact, the way Girls Who CEO is designed, year one is all inner work. It's understanding your nervous system, it's understanding your personality, it's understanding your strengths, it's understanding the presence you have in a room, and how and whether that aligns with the presence you want to have in a room. And it's understanding like how to manage when your nervous system is triggered, and how to manage when you have a decision that might not align with your values. So literally at the end of year one, every single participant of Girls Who CEO will walk away with a deeper understanding of her personality, an entire charter of values that are personal and important to her, and what her leadership aspirations are, like who she aspires to be as a leader. That's year one, right? So it's different in the sense that as girls, it's almost like we're not taught to be, right? Like, just be who you are, honor who you are, discover who you are, grow who you are, like all of that, right? Like, just be. And so that's really the idea. And year two is about business strategy, financial acumen. So these girls in year two will learn how to read the three different financial statements that most companies produce. They'll, like, literally, they'll talk about NOPAT, they'll talk about return on invested capital, they'll talk about a marketing strategy, a product strategy, they'll talk about all of the things that go into making a company. There's tax strategy, thanks to you. I'll tap on you to do the tax strategy for Girls Who CEO, by the way. I'm telling you now.
Sure.
I'm telling you now.
We
So
on.
yes. So really, like, it's about all of that. So when they go into their own lives, they already know their personalities, they already know what their values are, they already know what their leadership charter is and aspirations are based on who they are. That's very personal to them. Because I can tell you, my older one cares a lot about rules. Like, she's already, like, decided that she wants to become a lawyer. Whether she is or not, I don't know. But right now, she's in debate championships. She really cares about the law. She cares about human rights, and that's all her focus. That's what matters to her. Whereas my younger one is all about performing, right? Like, she'd be like, "Mama, I have Taylor Swift teeth, and I love singing, and I love expressing myself." And yet, they both of them can do math. Both of them can code till their eyes turn blue. Both of them are, like, straight A students and very, very intellectually smart. But they both have their flavors of their personality that need to come out. And therefore, their values are going to be different, their leadership charter is going to be different, and so on and so forth. I mean, they will have some base fundamental values like tell the truth or whatever. But then beyond that, what you stand for, because my younger daughter might not care about sticking to the rules all the time, whereas my older daughter might, right? So my younger daughter is always about what rule can I bend? And my older daughter is like, no, this is the rule, right? And there's space for all of that. And girls, as I know today, as a mother of two girls who's done some research on what's available in the market, Like there is no other program that is providing a place and a space for the girls to be. And that's it. Like I want the girls to be, because there is so much power, there's so much brilliance, there's so much intelligence in their souls already, that I just want them to discover that.
My last question.
Yes.
You are a wonderful mother. You are a fantastic wife. You're a great entrepreneur. Above all, it seems that you're a thought leader and you are headed for the moon and beyond. To your mind, what's your legacy to the world?
I want to know that I'm broken in probably 1,000 or more different ways, right? There's so many imperfections about me, so many things I don't do well. I mean, for example, I'm not a process person. If you ask my team, they'll be like, Sindhu, you live in chaos all the time. I just like, then I don't have a process or whatever. I haven't nurtured the process gene in me. And if you look around my room, I throw my clothes on the floor and walk. Like my room is always messy. And if you ask my IIT best friends, they'll be like, yeah, Sindhu's room was always like they would clean their rooms, and I would go jump into their rooms and spend the time there because my room was always dirty, right? So lots of things to fix about me, right? And yet I'm precious and I hold myself in very high regard. So if I had to leave a legacy, it would be that. It would be just own who you are, and like there are things that are amazing about you, there are things that are not so amazing about you. But what is constant about you is that you're awesome, you're precious, you deserve to be loved, you deserve to have 1,000 meaningful connections, and you deserve to be you. And if I can leave a legacy where, Sindhu was this broken person and yet she did some decent things in the world, and therefore I'm okay too, and I too can do some decent things in the world, that'd be fantastic.
Thank you so much for your wonderful inputs. I want to say to our great audience that to listen to such amazing stories and inspiring ways to elevate and maximize your potential, subscribe to our channel. And Sindhu, I think I still have a dozen unanswered questions. We may have to bring you back for those. But
Happy to
really
come
appreciate
back.
your time. Really appreciate
Yes.
your time. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And thank you once again for being on our show.